All right, guys. We're back. This is the Helping Friendly Podcast. I'm RJ. If you got used to just hearing Brian and Megan, then sorry to tell you, but I'm back. I'm so back. Brian, I got the Phillies game on this other screen over here. We got after the 4th of July. We're just cruising through summer here, guys. How you doing?
Good. I've got Wimbledon on right now, trying to will Carlos to victory. He's in a tough match here in the middle of the first set. Cubs are on Sunday Night Baseball tonight, and I
Oh
get to
yeah.
hang out and watch Sunday Night Baseball. You know why? Because this is not a 4-night run here in Colorado. It's a 3-night run. We're done. We're over. We can webcast for the rest of the year. This is a great moment.
Unbelievable.
I'm so happy about that because I've been staying up really late and I haven't even made it to the end of these shows most of the nights. But I just want to let you know I don't have any other sports on. I am laser focused on this episode today. I'm just focusing on fish, unlike you
It's not a
guys.
draft. You can hang out. It's okay.
Well, I
Okay,
actually, now
true.
that Brian mentioned that, I'm trying to figure out if I can do a split screen on YouTube TV to have Wimbledon and the Phillies game on. I'm trying to figure that out now.
Wimbledon is the best sport
can
to
do it.
watch.
Guys,
it's
I was at Wimbledon during Wimbledon. I didn't go to Wimbledon, so
Yeah,
it
it's hard
shows
to
you
go.
like what kind of sports fan I am.
Talk about a NIMBY town that really thinks about curfews and really effective like curfews in the middle of important matches. Great job, guys. I know another NIMBY town that cares a lot about curfews too. Let's talk about them.
Let's talk about it. So one thing I want to say is that we have a ton of voicemails, and I appreciate you guys leaving them. Of course, I am the person in charge of them, as you may have heard from all the times I couldn't get them to play in the past. But we are going to figure out a way to catch up on those. So stay tuned for that. Maybe we'll do that later this week. Maybe we'll do a short voicemail episode, a mailbag episode, as it were.
Yeah, let's do that. That'd be fun.
Okay.
I like that. I like that idea a lot.
So stay tuned for that, and keep sending the voicemails. Keep giving us reviews on Apple Podcasts and all that stuff. It's great to come back and be ready to talk about these 3 shows that Brian got to see. Megan, you just got back from a week vacation also, right?
Yeah, I was at the beach in North Carolina and I was streaming these shows. It was fun. And, everybody would come in. My niece and nephew would come in and they'd want to see the lights and they want to know what was going on. So it was good. Everybody gets to know about fish when they're playing and I'm on vacation with them. Everybody gets an education.
They sure do. Well, it's good to see you guys. Okay, Brian, let's get right into
this. Can I just say one thing to the
yeah.
to the crowd out there? Because I like what you mentioned about the mailbag episode. If you guys want us to do more of those, do not hesitate to just send in non-relevant voicemails about just random thoughts you have about fish, about questions you have about their history, shows you want to get like quick, just like, what do we think about this? What do we think about this period? Because we love your voicemails and we would love to actually do more voicemail bag episodes if stuff outside of the immediate content of the show was provided. So I'm just, it's a PSA to our crowd out there.
We like it even when they make us mad.
Exactly. It inspires great conversation. You guys are all the best. And when you needle at us, it gets even better, return on your investment from us and from our conversation here.
It's true.
RJ is talking and muted. This is great podcasting already. This is how they do it in England, I guess.
He's rusty.
Megan.
It's like you got to read my lips.
Megan, tell us what else you want us to know about what's going on.
There is something fun going on. We have an event at the Man. We are going to be doing an event night 2 in the parking lot. It's called Heady Meat Sticks, I'm sorry to say, but it's a barbecue and it's benefiting the Cancer Center at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. It's going to be Man Night 2, as I said, in the parking lot. I think it starts at about 3. RJ and I are going to do a live HFPod recap of the Man Night 1. And I think that's what we're doing, right, RJ?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And there's going to be some music there too, which will be really fun. And my daughter's going to be there, her first show. And we're also going to have some of our merch there because the t-shirts that we printed, the first HFPod merch in a long time, they're being shipped right now. So thank you if you're one of the awesome people that bought one and supported the pod in that way. We really appreciate it. And they're coming to you this week. And we've got some extras and we're going to be selling them at the Man Show. So come to our event. We'll put more information about it up on our socials and everything, but I hope people stop by. It'd be really fun to see all of you there.
And I just want to say about that. So this guy, Dean, who's a friend of mine who lives here in Philly, he started this barbecue a long time ago. I think maybe 2016 at the Man, maybe 2018. But anyway, they basically have built this thing where everyone from Federal Donuts to Monk's Cafe to the guys from The Alchemist, people all come to this big event fundraiser, and it's everyone brings, there'll be a bunch of Federal Donuts there, there'll be Heady Topper, there'll be other things that the guy from Monk's is bringing, and everyone just comes to hang out. And this guy Dean, who organizes it, is amazing, and he has basically created this really big fundraiser for CHOP, the Children's Hospital here, and it's turned into just a really cool thing. So come check it out and support that, and we'll be there. We are going to be there.
Good cause. It's a good cause.
We're going to be there, guys. Okay, so I guess Brian, can we just get into it with like a headline? Can we get a headline from you from this run? Do you have a headline for us? And it has to, think about headlines. Headlines have to be short.
That's why I'm thinking really hard for my headline here. Fish on 5 days rest comes back with B-level shows in an amazing setting.
I love it. I really love that headline.
It's a good one.
Megan, do you have any...
the baseball vibe of it really comes through on this one.
We'll get more I like that. I like that.
Megan, do you have an alternate or anything? Or do you want to write the subhead, or do you want to write your own headline? You can do it.
I'm going to write my own
subheads
headline.
Can be longer.
That's true. That's true. We'll just see which category it falls into, heading or subheading, when I'm done, because you never know where these things are going to go. I would say Fish continues to jam, but not bigly.
Bigly.
I gotta say, like, I didn't get to listen to these as closely as you guys because I was traveling and stuff, but the thing that came to mind was the word like cruising. Like, it kind of just feels like they're like cruising in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think that's like good and bad. You know what I mean?
That's a really interesting way to put it. I was thinking a little bit about that in our last episode, where Megan and I were going back and forth about how this just feels like the new normal, and that we can't really envision it getting any better than it had been. Yeah. And I think I agree with you, because this run felt just like, hey man, Fish is a great rock show to go see. Like, at the end of the day, they deliver on what the baseline of who they are is. I think what we chase at this point, and the reason why we continue to talk about this band, is that there are moments like, I was at Mexico 24 and Dick's 24. Those are two of the top runs I'll ever see in my entire life, with like boundary pushing, challenging, jamming, the band really pushing each other, it felt like, musically throughout the run. This felt like a band somewhat trying to figure out what is next, and also a band that was just cruising and having a good time on a beautiful weekend out west over a holiday. Like there was a, not a conflict so much. It was just kind of like dueling goals and like dueling ambitions for the band. It felt like at this point in the tour. Perhaps that's the routing, perhaps it was the setting. I think we'll get into it, but I think your comment on cruising like really sets the baseline of where I felt like they were much of this weekend, which wasn't reaching too high, but also was just delivering really, really solid sets of music throughout.
Not dueling banjos, though, huh? Or though maybe we did.
Well, I just watched Deliverance for the first time a couple months ago, and I was very into getting to dueling banjos and like a creepy ass Carini. That is, if you haven't seen that movie will mess you up in a really brutal way.
It's a really disturbing movie, but yes. I think I like the cruising comp too. I think that one thing that I think they're doing so well on this run is set listing like a champ. I mean, some of these sets had absolutely killer flow. I think night 1, set 1, amazing flow. Night 2, set 2 had incredible flow. And I think night 3, set 2 also had really great flow. And even though we're not getting, Brian and I spent a lot of time in our last episode talking about this, what we think is potentially unprecedented number of over 20-minute jams in the first 6 shows. We had 6. And we don't know if that's actually happened in history before. We're still working back. I think, what'd you get back to, Brian? 2003, you said?
I get back to 2003, and we've never seen 6 shows in the 6 jams in the first week of a tour. I I have to go through the late 90s, and I just haven't
Yeah.
at this point in time.
I
But
just I
yeah,
just can't
it's a
even
long time.
remember it. It's a long time, and I don't even know if it's ever happened. So that was interesting because if the band's doing something they've never done before or that very rarely happens, it's so exciting. But I think what was interesting is that I was looking at the numbers from this run, and night 1 had 4 jams within the 12 to 17 minutes. Night 2 had 6 jams within 12 to 18 minutes, and night 3 had 4 jams within 12 to 16 minutes. So they're jamming a lot in this kind of micro level jams, but they're just none of them hit 20 minutes, which is just interesting. I'm not necessarily saying it's good or bad, although I know what I prefer, but I do think it's interesting after coming from such a high number of really big jams in the first 6 shows.
People might be asking why I'd be qualified to say things about Fish, and part of the reason that I'm qualified is I heard in passing that the last summer draft results were announced. I just got like, it was sort of a side comment that I got that was like, oh, by the way, you won the draft. When other people win drafts, there's like parades and there's like celebrations, there's like confetti on the screen, and it's just it's, you know,
I guess you haven't listened to our episodes. I guess you weren't keeping up with HFPod while you were gone, because Brian and I did announce it. Did we not, Brian?
We announced it. It was a very special moment. We gave you lots of praise.
That was a special moment.
It was.
I know. We made a big deal out of it. I'm sorry that you didn't listen to your
I
own
haven't
podcast
listened
while you were gone.
I've never listened to an episode of HFPod, so I don't even know what it sounds like. No. Okay.
It's pretty fun most of the time.
Let's
like
get into
Trey
this.
never going to a Fish show, but being at every single one of them.
Exactly.
And like that being like a moment of like regret in his life. It's like, bro, you are the guy.
God.
Okay. Someone's asking me about the yam on 7-3,
Yep.
and no, a 20-minute yam doesn't count because it's
count.
yam. It's like a fluff head. When you have a super long composed song, it doesn't count for a 20-minute jam. Sorry.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But also there's a question about whether do we just expect too much, because these shows,
it's their fault though. It's their fault.
Being very far away from them, I thought like it was there, like you said. I mean, now that you guys weren't saying this, but it's just they're so good, and like in these moments,
excellent.
They're
just better than any other band.
It's crazy.
That's why we talk about them like this.
Okay, let's just go through the highlights from each night. Does that make sense?
Well, can we just really quickly, can I do a Dix versus Folsom just breakdown?
Yeah.
Because I've gotten a couple questions about it, and I just want to like share those thoughts, and then we can get into it. Ultimately, like I kind of went into this already having like a bitter edge against Folsom Field, because Dix is this like Fish lore. It's the second most played venue besides MSG. It feels like our MSG here in the middle part of the country. It's become this like tradition where I have friends who come in every year for it. We've done podcasts out in the lot. The shakedown is always epic. We have
so dusty.
It's so dusty, but like it's just it's its own community right there. It's awesome. We have a very specific section that our group goes to, and we get like 15, 20 people in there every year. That said, in the last couple of years, it has gotten very intense. Like the wait to get in, there's a lot of waiting throughout the Dix experience because they do tend to sell out. And so it ends up being a very packed, somewhat just like stressful environment where you're trying to get to your space to hear the music the way you want to hear it. And you have to put in a lot of work to do that. And it felt increasingly like you had to do that more and more and plan more and more each year. Plus the weather stuff that we've had happen in the last couple of years, I think soured some people in some cases to the overall experience there. Last year's run musically was top tier, epic. Some of the best Fish I've ever seen in my entire life. Maybe the best. I don't know. But I was totally cool with a change and to see what the change would be. And I thought ultimately Folsom Field, if this were to become the new venue in Colorado, I'd be 100% favor of it. Aesthetically, it's really beautiful. There's really something about walking across a college campus to see Fish. Downtown Boulder is really charming. The first night we parked in the neighborhoods right by the Fox Theater, walked to a bar, met up with some friends. had, a couple drinks, a couple appetizers, and then walked in. We were 10 minutes away from the venue, walked right in, 0 lines, walked right to our section. Like, it filled up slowly, and there was tons of space within the venue. You could really just like map out a section for you and your friends to be in. Everyone had tons of space. The sight lines were great. Wherever I was in the venue, I was in a different spot throughout the entire weekend. The sound was awesome where we were. We sat actually up in the 200s, Fishman side the first night, and then Page side the second night. I had amazing sound the whole weekend. I felt like I could see the band. I could see the lights. I had tons of space. It was really easy to get around. Like, very choice, stress-free, beautiful setting for Fish, a venue that they could potentially grow into. The fact that it's bigger than Dick's and they undersold it here. If they came back and they played shows on the quality of like those 2012 Fish shows, this could become its own destination of itself. I think that's the one thing missing here, as we'll get into, is like there wasn't that epic, holy crap, I have to go to that venue next year to see what they do. But for anyone thinking about coming out to Colorado, if they do this again, I would say, even if you stay in Denver, it's not that far of a drive. It's a really easy in and out. They run it really nicely. The people that work there were all really pleasant. Not a ton of like security in your face, just very ideal, stress-free Fish experience at Folsom Field. Gets an A from me. I would be very happy to go back there.
There is something so magical about seeing Fish on a college campus. I just kept looking at it. My younger daughter is interested in the college, and I just kept looking at it thinking, how awesome would that be? Like, Fish came to your college. That's so fun. And everyone I talked to said the same thing about the venue. And on the stream last night, I was looking at it, and even the floor was super spaced out. People had tons of space down there, which is just the best.
Yeah.
That's really
awesome
cool
stuff. Awesome.
I'm glad.
Stuff.
It sounds like all around everyone was happy, which is great.
Good.
No complaints, right?
0 complaints.
Zero
awesome
complaints.
Time. Epic.
0
time.
complaints from Brian Brinkman. There you go.
Couple notes, but no complaints.
All right, let's get into the notes. Let's get into Thursday's show, July 3rd, 2025. Well, Brian, I guess why don't you just tell us your take on kind of the first set, and then let's just like highlight 1 or 2, things per set, and then we'll go through the shows that way.
I really loved this set in the moment. I thought it just was kind of that mix of like the opening set to a run that has some surprises, couple bust outs, couple jams you weren't expecting, pretty solid flow, also without like going way too far out into the ether that you're like, whoa, where is this band coming from right now? Just a really good entry level, like opening set. It was interesting because there was a pretty big storm that was moving from the mountains out east just to the north of us, and we had a ton of lightning visible. I was definitely worried that we were going to get canceled, just knowing what we have experienced at Dick's in the past. Our mutual friend Jeremy Smythe was standing next to me during that set, and I kept looking at him like, do you think we're gonna get canceled? And he kept going, it's so far north, we're good, it's so far north. And as it got like increased, like literal like lightning bolts like down, felt like it like touched the ground right outside of the stadium. It's so far north. So we were at least like in good spirits at that point in time. Musically, my biggest highlights are probably the Tube and the Kill Devil Falls. Tube, that was kind of like the, it doesn't go too far, but like it was really the moment where like the sound in the venue met with the band connecting around a groove. And there's just something about seeing this band live when they connect around like a singular groove, and you hear them all jump on the same page, and they build it up to a peak, and then it goes back into Tube, and like it was just welcome back, that type of vibe. It was awesome. Kill Devil Falls
Tube
went
was awesome.
Tube was great.
Yeah.
Kill Devil Falls went into some cool space. Not as big as the most recent ones that we've heard, but a good type 2 diversion with some awesome lightning at that point in time. On the whole, I dug this set. I think this is the right place for a set like this. I think if this had happened the next night or the following night, maybe there's a little bit of a bummer at that point in time, but it was a great opening set to the weekend.
I just want to show this note here from Alex, who said, "I traveled from the UK to these shows, and some moments in the second sets were better than Dick's 24 for me, and I went to that too." Alex, sorry we missed each other. We were crossing the
Yeah.
Atlantic at the same time. But that's interesting. That's awesome. I'm so glad that people, leave these shows feeling so good. Megan, do you have anything to add about that set?
Yeah, I thought there was some fun rarities played, which I think is really nice, and something that they kind of followed up with from week 2 last week of playing some more songs that we don't hear as much. And I thought there's some really nice peaks in these jams too, and just solid playing. I really love the Roses. I was pretty bummed not to hear it. I've been chasing that since 2010. I haven't heard it since then. And this is the longest show gap it's had since its debut in 97. So
It's wild.
yeah, it hadn't been played since July 16th, 2022. I saw it last at Walnut Creek on July 1st, 2010. It's only been played 51 times, and it's just not played that often. And this is the longest gap. So hopefully that will get shortened up so I can see it again. But the solo in that is just so beautiful. And I thought it was really fun to see Nellie Kane too. The last time they played that, I saw that in Grand Rapids last summer, but it was with Billy Strings. So it's nice that they're bringing the bluegrass back. I think there was a little bit of bluegrass almost in every show, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, we got 3 bluegrass songs
Yeah.
throughout the weekend, which felt very much like an old school nod. We started picking out other bluegrass bust outs we wanted to hear throughout the weekend, just in case. But yeah, it was really, really great.
I thought that, Brian, like you said, they kind of landed in Colorado and fired up that jam first set, first night. That tube was it was really, really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Really cool. Okay, so set 2, we get we get a not counting You Enjoy Myself as a 20-minute jam, but the Carini before that, I mean, that was like, I guess my main question about this is, can it be considered a ripcord if you go into You Enjoy Myself? Like, it feels like there should be like it's
an asterisk. I mean, yes, but it is okay. It is like maybe okay, but yeah, I think you still can. But yeah, it's no one's ever going to be mad that they're playing You Enjoy Myself.
That's my question. What do you guys think?
I mean, like, I loved where the jam was right before it went into that. I thought they were in a really interesting spot with the dueling banjos. I think Mike and Trey, the way that they're communicating and their guitars are talking to each other on this tour has just been so thrilling. And it got so quiet, and I really loved where they were. So I was a little sad that they left the jam, but
yes. I mean, in the moment, I was like, okay, it's still the first show, and you want to play Yem now, and Yem has been great of late, and the fact that they are playing Yem in really interesting spots, I think is like, one of those, why is Fish still playing it 42 years in their career? Well, they're still trying to figure out, like, hey, what if we did this with You Enjoy Myself? Like the song that had been defined as like your set 2 closer of a big show.
And doing smaller, shorter vocal jams and then jamming after, which is yes.
However, in hindsight, and when thinking about these shows in full context, when I listen back to this Carini and then the Yem, it kind of strikes me as what was slightly off in my ears to this run, and maybe people disagree. That's fine. Carini, like you said, Matt, got to a really, really exciting place. I thought the dueling banjos jam was creepy and weird, and then it seemed to be, finding that footing to take, wherever that next step is within the jam, as we've been hearing for the last 2.5 years in Fish. It did seem to me, and we'll get to this as we move through the set, like there were issues in communication between Trey and Fishman, that the two of them could not get on the same page rhythmically, and that they then started kind of searching for, well, what songs will allow us to kind of break through to this. And so Yem was a big call. I agree with you. I think it's like not necessarily a ripcord if you're going to go into a song like that, but it also was kind of emblematic that something's not working here in this Carini. And the Yem, you're absolutely right. Like, we've gotten the shorter vocal jam, the second jam here kind of sounded just like a Yem jam. So I was just like, why tack on the second jam if we're just going to play like the Yem jam again? And then we go into Sally, which is the first version since I think 2023. So nice mini bust out there. That mini Baker's Dozen that they did in MSG summer 2023. We get a version here that, like, approaches some of the best jamming versions of Sneaking Sally that we've ever
Mhm.
heard. It did seem pretty like it was a Trey show. This was like Trey building up to a very heroic solo. The place was going wild, white lights, like strobes and everything. And like he looked like a freaking like hero on stage playing his heart out. Awesome, awesome stuff. But then we go into light and we go immediately back into the type of jamming we were getting in Carini, but it just doesn't seem to be working. And at that point, Trey like calls for the ultimate ripcord, which is 8 minutes into light. No more jam. What's the use? We're going as minimalist as possible because we can't get on the same page, and we'll figure it out later. And then we get kind of a fourth quarter that, just happens. Perfect show for a possum.
Yeah. Really was.
That Sally though is one of my favorite jams of the run. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, it's
murky.
really good.
It's really murky funk, and then it like segues really nicely into some really uplifting playing. It has that rocking, effortless groove, and almost some Allman Brothers like vibes from Trey. It's like honey rich licks, just so pretty. Like I was like, yes, and they find like a nice way back into the song. I was at the last time they played this song and I didn't realize it had been that long. So I'm really glad you guys got it. And I love that song. And I thought this jam was fantastic. And when they started playing light after, I was like, well, this could be really great. Like we've had some really great lights recently. And then it was not, I mean, what's the use that segue is like, I don't even know if you'd call it that. It's not good. It's not good. And it's like, what's the use?
That is a ripcord.
That is a ripcord. And it's like, what's the use is just so evocative. And when it's placed perfectly, it's so intense. It's one of my most favorite things that Fish plays. And I can't remember another time when I was like, whoa, should not go there. But that's how I felt. So yeah. It felt off in the beginning too. The opening notes to What's the Use didn't sound right. I don't know if they were off key a little bit or it just didn't sound right to me. But maybe it was just because it was jarring coming out of light.
I mean, I wasn't extremely close by any stretch of the imagination, but I had a very clear shot of Trey of the stage at the end of light. And I just remember seeing Trey look at Fishman and kind of like lift his guitar up, like, we are ending this. Like he played like a chord of just like, now we're going to like, there was like a, you need to fucking listen to me right now type of moment. At least like from my vantage point, I don't know what people thought who were webcasting or saw it or were closer, but I have not gone back to rewatch it. But it did seem, because there were moments where like Trey was playing something, Fishman was doing something else, and it just didn't seem like the two of them were connected. Shermith with a comment that I agree with ultimately here. Other people might not, but the story of the set for me, every song was like, this could be the one. Carini, Light, Pillow Jets, and it never quite happened. Again, first night of the run, cool. Like I've seen that happen before, and then the band like figured things out, but it was kind of emblematic of musically what I heard throughout the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that's during the Sneaking Sally, I thought they were like totally on the same page. Like it was like it felt like the groove was like really like a driving kind of groove, but like basic, but it worked.
So that's
yeah.
You talk often about like, am I hearing new sounds? And I think the Sally is kind of perfect in this sort of standpoint of that is a tried and true Fish groove. You know what I mean? Like that is, they can do that in their sleep and they do it great. It's an awesome version, but you're not like getting it like the Carini, the Light, you were getting into kind of these weird new spaces that I just wonder if they still need to like build up to be able to get there every show. Who knows? Who knows? Or maybe it's just like so special they can't get there every show.
I mean, they were doing it in the first 6 shows. I don't know. Maybe it was the days off.
Right.
I don't know. Like maybe it was the time off. I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting because I think even the next night there's some moments when they find that space that's really interesting and has a lot of new sounds, but it never goes really far, which is maybe okay. I mean, I thought
one too many old ladies with the in this house we believe signs in front of their house came up to Trey all weekend and were like, please don't play too loud. This is a nice community. Please don't play too loud tonight. And he was just like, fine, like I can't win.
I don't understand the curfew thing. Brian and I were talking about this before we went live, but like, why would half an hour or 45 minutes affect this community so much? Like, what is the big deal? I don't understand why they want to, are so intent on that, and it just, I don't know, I don't like it. It seems like
Shermith mentioned something in the comments that I agree with. I didn't see any nitrous the entire weekend, and when
Mm.
you come out of Dick's, it is like
wow,
a
really?
swarm of tanks and
Yeah,
balloons that you have to like
I've heard
muscle your way through to
super
get to your
intense.
car. And even at your car, it's just like these guys like come out behind the cars with like 18 tie-dyed balloons in their arms. Like there was my
Should
brother
be
said
so
he saw
lucky,
it.
you know.
I didn't see any of it. This was literally like we walked through campus into the neighborhood after the first night and it was quiet. Like people were
How did
having like,
they do that?
I don't know, but like this is like to your point, like I don't know why the curfew became an issue.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're saying, yeah, like the first night wasn't like something horrible happened after the
No,
show and people
this
were
was
like, yeah,
such a different vibe from Dick's in that sort of sense. People were like quiet and
this is,
respectful, like I
yeah,
don't
it's
know,
not
man.
like it was like Morrison 1996 or something. Yeah.
Right,
I don't know.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Weird.
All right. So, well, let's talk about Friday, 4th of July, fireworks, America, hot dogs. Did you guys do it? Did you do all that stuff, Brian?
I mean, we saw fireworks in the distance. I did not have a hot dog. I had a shogi. It was
Okay.
quite a nice
The
shogi.
best. You also had special shirts on, you and your son.
My,
Will you
I
tell
brought
us
my
about
son
that?
to his second show. He and I for Halloween last year went as he was the Declaration of Independence. I was the Constitution. So we
course.
wore those shirts
So
to
killer.
the 4th of
So
July.
killer.
Because anyone who studies their American history knows like it's cool to declare your independence. There was like a 7-year fucking war that we
Mhm.
almost lost like 8 different times, and then a bunch of states decided not to actually pay for the military that just won them this war. And then we had this horrible constitution that like was not accomplishing anything and was going to actually like break the country apart. It's really 1787 that we should be celebrating because that was the moment that we came together and realized like how to create a lasting republic if you can keep it. So, we've got a 9-year-old Declaration of Independence and a 40-year-old Constitution.
I love it.
We were walking around Buckingham Palace the other day, and I got to give my kids a brief version, almost as short as that, what you just said, Brian, of why America exists. And it was fun. It was like I could only get them to pay attention for 4 minutes, so I had to make it work.
That's right. Cliff notes.
Did you get to like why there should have been guillotines in the streets of London or no? Okay.
Nope, we didn't.
That's
we didn't make it that
a couple
far.
years later.
Yep.
I went to the movies instead.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You saw F1?
Yeah, I saw F1, which rules. I know that one of the stars
Nice.
is canceled, but it still rules. And
Who is Brad Pitt canceled?
a little
He's
bit.
canceled?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I mean, you can't be in Goose for this, allegedly, but you can be a huge movie star, I guess. I shouldn't say that. Anyway, yes, he has some issues. You can look it up.
I had no idea.
Yeah. You can look it up, but
Okay.
yeah, he's had some issues. But anyway, the movie.
Can I
don't think
still
you can
watch Once
cancel-
Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Yeah.
Of course, and it's
Can
major.
you even
it's-
cancel Brad Pitt?
You
Is
can't
he even
cancel Brad Pitt.
cancelable?
No, he's not. And honestly, it is total Top Gun vibes. It's just, it reminded me so much of that movie and what it felt like to see that movie for the first time. It's fantastic and it's fun and it's really big and boisterous and the scenes are thrilling. It makes you care about something that, like, who knew you? I didn't really care about F1, but I did in the movie. I was really invested. It's awesome.
It's like a serious fan base. I have a couple friends who are into it. And
Really?
They're like, hey, do you want to like get up at 6:00 in the morning next Saturday and watch 8 hours of auto racing with me? And I'm like, man, there are a lot of things I've like negotiated in my family life for like extended sports watching experiences.
Yeah.
Like I cannot bring that one in. I'm sorry.
No. Brian, were you invested in set 1 of Friday Night's Fish Show at Folsom?
I dug it. Yeah.
I was just trying to make a segue there to get us back on track. That bathtub gin, man, what an opener. I feel like if every show opened with bathtub gin, I'd be fine with it. It just
Yes.
how did the energy work in that space then?
Well, I really thought it worked great. they came on half an hour earlier than the night before, so it was noticeably sunnier, which added this kind of cool, just like overall vibe to like seeing them and like the sun in the bowl. I don't know, like the aesthetics of this venue got me from every angle that I was at. I kept thinking, at its best, this song is like Fish recreating like big band music. Like the
Oh,
build up
yeah,
to the
I like
peaks
that.
just sound like horn charts in like a really cool way. And I don't know.
Na, 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 na,
Yeah, and
na.
it's just
Yeah.
like not this wasn't the greatest bathtub gin you'll ever hear, but like one of the things about bathtub gin, we talked about this in our Mount Rushmore episode, is it's one of those songs that when it's played well, you're like, is that the greatest piece of music I've
Yeah.
ever heard in my entire life?
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
you're just like, oh my god, so I loved it. I thought it was a great way to kick this overall show off. Yeah, awesome stuff. Awesome
This
stuff.
is only the 13th time it's ever opened a show. It's been played 316 times, and that was only the 13th time it's ever opened a show.
Yeah,
I
that's
agree.
what I'm
They should
saying.
do it more
It's
often.
stupid.
That is pretty
Why
incredible.
would you do that?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, just do it every show. Who cares? So that, I guess, there's the Oblivion Jam is the thing we really need to talk about, I think. But I
Well,
I
it's so
did
classic too. It's like old school Fish, most of this set.
most of
There's
it.
like, yeah, most of the whole show. There's like, 3 modern songs and a like beloved, rarely played cover. But the rest is just all classic Fish, which is fun, I think, which added to the flow.
Yeah, I really liked the little like riff that Trey found in theme, which I thought was cool. There were like moments I thought
Yeah.
where they kind of I don't know, I felt like it felt a little bit more like they were more comfortable than the night before, but but also like just sort of like on paper, it's sort of like it looks like a set that you could maybe skip. But that Oblivion Jam in the middle is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of where I accepted that we are getting a vibes run. We're not getting the like, let's really test your metal. Let's like elevate this style of where Fish is at in 2025. But let's just have a good time. And I had a good time. The Oblivion Jam was the deepest that we went. Got into really cool funk spaces. We've started to hear more of the synth pedal again this year that had kind of faded away a bit in 2024. And that combined with where Mike is playing right now is great. Compared to the night before, Fishman and Trey sounded fully connected here around kind of a unique groove. And it kind of tells the story of the run in a lot of ways to me. They did an amazing job of when they locked in very quickly and found a lot of terrain and a lot of spaces of music to explore. And then it's around 15 minutes, they'd close it down and they move on to the next song. And that is just a very different move than what we have heard in recent Fish, which I think is notable. I don't know exactly why that's the case. I can speculate, but like, this Oblivion was an awesome jam that followed that kind of template throughout the entire weekend. This was right around the time the sun was setting. So like in the venue, this was just like an ideal little moment here. Gaiudi was cool. My buddy Ross was calling for that, asking for that all weekend. First and 49 shows. Little bit rough.
He started singing so high.
So high. They were like a little off at times on the composed stuff. It's so interesting to me that they can play Fluffhead so well consistently, and yet like David Bowie and Gaiudi are like, ugh, can we make it through? Is everyone going to be okay? Just like practice them a little bit more. Like
they play
Gaiudi's
it
really
less
fun
though,
live.
right? Because Gaiudi they play like once a year. Strangely, I was at the last 3 Gaiudi performances before this one, which is weird. Yeah, but yeah, I think I think they maybe just don't play it as much as Fluffhead, but
I think that's it.
Yeah, I love this.
It's also really.
This is one of my. Oh,
sorry,
ahead,
I was just gonna say about Gaiudi, like just from talking to like the guys, the reprise guys. I mean, Gaiudi is an insanely hard song to play. It's probably maybe the hardest composition that Trey's written, which is saying something.
I recall
There's
reading
so many,
that. Yeah.
So I don't want to be too hard on it, but it does it's not fun.
I think that and Fluffhead, because like for a while they didn't play Fluffhead because it was so hard. And I think Gaiudi could just use a little bit more time working out the changes.
Just need some more work. Sorry, Megan. You were talking about the Oblivion Jam.
I just want to say it's one of my favorite jams of the weekend, like top 3. I thought that that sound that Mike finds, he's got this new effect that's really bouncy and has rounded edges. It's really funky. It's like a space funk noise. It's so good to me. And this is the first time I heard it over this weekend. And then he goes to it a bunch, like in a bunch of other jams that we'll talk about. But I thought it was absolutely killer. And it was one of those moments when I actually, put my book down and like started looking at the stream and I thought it was great.
Well, you were reading during this, and you think that you have an authority to talk about this band? What is going on here?
Sitting and staring at a screen for 3.5 hours is tough for me. So I have to, I've got it on the TV, and then I've got my book, and then I'll put my book down and take notes. But yeah,
I got to say,
I'm a multitasker, just like you guys in your sports,
I know, I'm just giving you shit right now. The space that I had, I could sit down multiple times throughout the weekend, nobody in front of me, nobody around me, no dumb conversations about the apartment that you're looking to rent with your maybe girlfriend, like the type of stuff you hear at like a Goose show constantly, like talking about like the brand of jeans that you buy, like in the middle of a Rosewood Heart, like none of that. And I was like, shit, I should have brought my book, because like this is as good as webcasting. Like I could have just like had the perfect experience sitting in the mountains.
Somebody would have totally found you and been
So
like,
great.
Brian Brinkman, here he is reading a book. It's worse than Rick sitting at Fish. You reading during Fish would have just been so viral. I wish that happened.
It would have been good. I would have been good. Next time, do it.
If I'd still been reading The Blind Assassin, I would have, but like I forced myself.
Oh my God. So we had a second quarter here that was in my quick listening was worth skipping instead of a fourth quarter. The fourth quarter in the show kind of worked, but that end of the first set was, I don't know, it's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
It was fine.
It was fine.
It's fine. Great. Okay, Brian, set 2. Tell us about it.
So, I think set 2 is, I don't know if I would say a perfect set, but it is as close as we got to an A quality set this weekend. Amazing song selections.
Yeah.
Every single one of these songs, with the exception of No Quarter, and there's an asterisk to this because No Quarter has jammed in the past, but every one of these songs is a certified jam vehicle. All of those songs being like fueled together to create essentially one long kind of set jam is a great move. I love it. These were all then, jam vehicles that were kind of repurposed as high octane rock jams. There wasn't anything too weird, too out there, too risky. It just all worked. The simple What's Going Through Your Mind had kind of the most airy spaciousness within it. But on the whole, I thought this set, like, it had narrative arc, it had structure I loved. It's the type of set you press play on simple and you do not need to do anything until Ghost is finished. No Quarter being like the cool down song, if there is even such a thing, like that's a great move. This set reminded me a lot of Mondegreen Night 3 set 2. It reminded me of 11-2-18 set 2. You're not coming here for like deep off the beaten path jams. You're coming here for flow, great song selection, excellent playing from the whole band. I loved this. I will just note personally 2 things really quickly, and then I'll shut up. Number 1, this is my son's second show. He and I were hanging out during set break, and they'd gone off the stage at like right around 9:00. It was like 9:15, and he goes, "Dad, I got to go number 2." And I was like, "Right now?" Right now? Like, we just can't wait until after the show? And he was like, "Right now." It's like, oh, fuck. So the one downside of this venue is that whereas in Dick's, you go up to the concourse and you're basically still a part of the show and you can hear the show wherever you are in the venue. Here, it's cut off, so it ends up being pretty muffled. I take like pretty diligent notes during the show. Like I track when they walk on stage, when they start a song, I track that all throughout the show. So I had to text my wife to be like, "Hey, I'm going to be out in the bathroom with Wally, can you please text me like exactly when they come on stage? So we had like a whole system down. Everything worked out fine. He was great. Powered through quickly enough. We returned back for the jam. And then midway through the set, he started to get a little tired and he asked to sit on my lap. And so for the tweezer no quarter disease ghost, I had him on my lap, kind of resting his eyes, watching fish. Had that happen last year during the Kill Devil Falls, What's Going Through Your Mind, cross-eyed at Dick's. Look, I don't want to bring my son to every single show. I need a little bit of like the escapism myself. It's like part of why I do this, but like incorporating music with your kids and having moments where you can like share like this amazing music and this amazing band with them right there, like curled up in your arms. That's like some priceless shit for me. So again, why on the vibe scale, amazing weekend. On the will I go back to this run and be like, that's some of the best music I've ever heard. Fish, a little bit less.
Yeah.
I'm going to make my daughter sit on my lap. I don't know if she will at 15.
She's a little older. She's kind of like,
I'll try.
Thanks for sharing that, Brian. It's cool to hear that experience. I thought that so what's going through your mind is definitely like it's like the biggest jam vehicle Fish plays at this moment, which is great.
Yeah.
There's really like no, I mean, besides like
she loves it so much.
Loves it. But it's interesting. They did a lot, I think, in that jam before the tweezer, a lot of that kind of shifting into, I guess, what I would describe as like kind of what they would typically do, kind of like kind of ambient, and then they kind of pick it up into that and driving into the kind of end into tweezer. But Megan, I know I think I saw you post that you really love that tweezer jam.
Yeah, this is my favorite jam of the weekend. It's just, first of all, I just want to give a shout out to Paige on the synths this weekend. Like, wow, he's just making every jam so much more rich and textured and awesome. This is, again, Mike found that kind of bouncy and deep funk effect, and I just thought it sounded incredible. There was so much texture, but still tied to rhythm. It's really steady, but it also has that huge peak. That's why I love it. I think it does everything they're doing well right now, which is soundscape, kind of space funk, and then that's really rhythmic still, but then they still have that huge peak in this jam, which I think Trey's just been peaking so much in a way that sounds really inspired, and I love that.
A lot of huge Trey peaks all weekend. Like, that's massive, a great point. Yeah.
Massive. Like, that to me was like, he's been doing it this whole tour, but this weekend even more, it just seemed like he was really like focused on that. And I think, again, when they're building this peak, especially in this tweezer, and I've heard this on this tour as well, definitely in the What's Going Through Your Mind, the big one from Pittsburgh, he's adding textures to his peak, and it's giving this like crunchiness to the build, which is different and cool, and a way that they can take like a classic jam band, trope building to a peak, and they can make it more interesting because they're Fish. And then you have the post-peak melt into a song that I have never heard. It's only been played 20 times, but I Am Chasing No Quarter, and I was pretty devastated that they played it. But yeah, best cool down song. And I just think this set is thematically perfect. Like, you get, a really kind of ambient, shimmery, pretty simple, and then it gets dark and intriguing. And then that darkness takes you all the way through Ghost, which ends at this absolutely, I can't even imagine what it was like in the room. I mean, I guess I can because I've been to Fish shows with huge peaks, but that peak was like epic, just an absolute huge, thrilling peak at the end of the set. And I'm so glad they just like walked off the stage after that. I was like, don't do it, Trey. Like, don't play another song. And it was just, he didn't. I was so happy. But yeah, I thought the set was my favorite set of the weekend. It's pretty perfect. I mean, if that tweezer had gone like 30, it would be like lights out. Like, that would have just been crazy. But I feel like it was a perfect jam. It didn't need to. I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying that I think I was surprised it didn't, because it sounded like it could have. But just a killer set. Paige sounded amazing on the vocals in No Quarter too.
I mean, there were a couple of moments where I was like, the band sounds like they're playing a jam right now where they're going to go 25, 30 minutes. Like that's just like how locked in they were at times. I think you're right. Like, I don't know what the like larger community perception is around the set. I would imagine most people really like this because of the song selections. Everything does jam. It flows really nicely. I think if you have like a bigger jam in either tweezer or simple or what's going through your mind, it is elevated a little bit. But I also like for what they were going for in this set and what they delivered on from just like a huge rocking big song kind of greatest hits sampler pack. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. And to
Yeah.
your point about like the roar in these peaks, it was interesting. Um Dick's, because of the way it's built, and because of how many tickets they sell, when a big moment happens, it's this like you are overtaken by the crowd almost when like the place erupts. Because of how big and spread out this was, you would hear this like roar from the floor, and then it would kind of like spread upwards, and it had just like it was just a very different vibe to anything I've ever seen from this band. Like MSG, you're all contained in the same room, a big moment, like you feel that in your bones. This was almost like a ripple in a way that if they grew into this venue, it'd be interesting to hear what it would be like in 5 years.
That's awesome, and shout out to the floor people for bringing the vibes and the energy, but the community loved, I wanna say in general, this whole run. I had some comments online about jam length and just how interesting it is that they didn't play anything over 20, and people kinda went after me a little bit just because I think people really like Colorado Fish, and they don't really wanna hear that what if it wasn't, anybody say anything else otherwise, but yeah, I think people loved this set especially. It seems that's to be the highest praise for sure, but
I've never heard of anyone in the Fish community being upset at like notes and criticism for Fish. That's an
yeah,
interesting,
it was really interesting.
It is interesting.
good conversations. Music was good. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. So fun.
We have to take a break before we go to night 3, which I should have done earlier. But I'm rusty, as Brian pointed out. So let's
Did I?
shake
I
it
think I
off.
think I
I
said
pointed
that.
out. I think you're
Let's
pointing it
said
out right
it.
now. I think you're pointing
I
it out
said
right
it.
now.
No, maybe Megan said it. Thanks, Megan.
I said it. Sorry.
Thanks. I'll be waiting for my congratulations on the draft during the break. See you guys back here in a sec. All right, Brian. Instead of a Sunday show, we get a Saturday show. Never miss a Saturday show, especially at Folsom Field. That's what they say. They've always said that. Even the experts. What
I did see like 3 people wearing a Never Miss a Sunday Show shirt last night, which I really appreciated because that is like deep layered Fish joking
really
on a
is.
Saturday night.
Oh my
That's
God.
awesome.
Brian, what was the vibe going into night 3 and maybe talk about like the first set and kind of what you thought about it?
Absolutely. Whatever you guys are asking for, I can deliver on. Like I said, somewhere midway during set 1 of the 4th of July, I accepted we were getting a vibes run. And so I went in kind of just like, hey, I was doing some reflecting and I was like, man, I got unquestionably the best Fish I've ever seen in 2024. I saw the Mexico run and I saw the Dix run. And for what I seek from this band and for what I look for, nothing will ever top that. At least I can't imagine anything topping that at this point in time. I got to the century mark. I got to take my son to his first show. Like 2024 Fish was like a huge, huge period for me. And I am forever grateful for it. And one of the things we talked about this in Top 25 Tours, we talked about this in 40 for 40. One of the eternal rules with Fish is that they're always evolving. They're always tweaking. They're always updating their sound. I think one of the more accurate critiques that RJ has made in the last couple of years is when jams go long but sound in a very similar space. And I would imagine that's something the band is slightly aware of at times, where you hear like a 40-minute jam and you're like, but did I hear anything new? And I do get the sense right now that they're trying to figure out what that new thing is. Where's the next step? What do we do next? And that converged with, odd touring routing. We talked about this in our draft episode that RJ won. Playing new venues, a lot of new venues, a lot of indoor, and then hey, suddenly we're in the outdoors. The curfew thing, the weather delay that ended up happening, all of this contextually is just to say, like, I went into this run, this show being like, whatever happens, happens. I have had a great time. I've had no stress. Great crew that we're with. Walked in just after doors, found our spot, hung out. Weather delay happened around 7:15. I've been through 2 weather delays at Dick's, one that was managed pretty well. The other one was atrocious, and I still have complaints. I'm still being a Karen about it. This one was handled great. The storm was hilariously moving just to the south of us. We could watch it happen the entire time. I felt 2 raindrops throughout the weather delay. I saw 0 lightning. They didn't actually push people off the floor the way that they did at Dick's 2022, which was the right thing to do in that event. They let everyone kind of chill. When they uncovered the instruments, huge roar from the audience. Band came on stage. First set, I would say in terms of the 3 first sets, this was my second favorite, right behind night 1. I thought on the whole, 46 Days, Sigma Oasis, and Blazon were the clear improvisational highlights, with Blazon specifically being this like just great late set 1 performance that goes a little bit deep, gets a little bit weird, ends in a really raucous peak, in a really profound way. I thought in the lighting in the venue at that time and the way that the lights were hitting the crowd, like it just looked and felt really nice. Beautiful version of Blazon. I'll get into the end of the first set here after I hear your guys' thoughts, because I have one more thing to share. But just good stuff, man. Good Fish vibes, carefree Fish vibes.
Vibes guy,
vibes.
Brian Brinkman, vibes
Brian
guy.
loves-
You heard it here.
I
Love
became
vibes.
one, man. I'm accepting of it. You know, it all
I will
it happens.
say,
to all of us.
you did text us during night 2 before the second set and say it's a vibe show, it's a vibes run, it's fine. And then you wrote back during the tweezer, okay, we might be back. So I don't know if you were fully
I was hoping.
okay
I
with
kept
that.
hoping. I kept hoping.
You kept hope alive. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I thought the Sigma Oasis, first of all, I just love this song. It's some of my favorite Fish lyrics, but I think it's the perfect launching pad for the epic soundscapes they've been painting lately. And I was really hoping that this one maybe might go there. I have to get over wanting Bowie to jam. I'm not over it, but I was looking at the numbers and it hasn't gone over 15 minutes in 20 years, and it hasn't gone over 20 minutes in 25 years. So I think I just have to give up on it. But I was hoping that because they did kind of botch the entry, that I was like, okay, they're playing this like mid first set. They kind of botched the entry. Maybe they'll make it up by being like, fuck it, let's take it for a ride. And I think we had a little bit of a tease this spring. So I was hopeful, which I just need to stop doing. I have to just stop. Yeah, it's over. But I thought the Blazon was great. He, again, Trey, just another super gassed up peak, like perfect reentry, just a great Blazon right in the first set there. And anytime Fish plays the Beatles, you know, this is a song I haven't heard since 1997. It's a good moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it felt a little bit all over the place for me from listening, but I also had to kind of like jump around. So that's actually never mind, because that seems like more like my fault than anyone else's.
It's fair. It's a fair critique regardless.
To be fair, the show didn't appear on Live Fish until like 2 hours ago. So
yeah, that's true.
Exactly.
that was crazy. It was a race against time. The second set, that combo of Fuego, my friend Fuego, and that's basically all that I made it through, I thought was awesome. But Brian, tell me about the second set.
Well, let me just say one more thing about the first set, because you know, second to last vibes moment of the weekend for me. So my wife and I are chasing 2 songs. For me, it's Albuquerque. For her, it is A Day in the Life. I had never seen it either. I'd always wanted to, but this is her Albuquerque. And when Lizard started, I was like, either we're getting one set, because I was trying to do the math in my head of like the curfew and blah, 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 and the rain delay. But I was like, we're probably going to get Lizards and then like Cavern. And so I went, used the bathroom, filled up our waters. Need more water stations at Folsom. Okay. They go really fast. So the water line moves really, really quickly. But we need a couple more water stations. But I took a nice little walk and I was coming back and I stopped as they ended Lizards to see what we were going to get started with here. And I saw Trey looked at Paige, and Paige started to play the piano. And my initial thought was, oh, Walls of the Cave. And then I was like, wait, that's not Walls of the Cave. What else starts with a piano? Oh my God. And like, I like yelled And I ran back to our seats, and everyone was in hugs. There were tears. It was a very, very epic, special moment for Fish, for for our group of friends. Seeing Fish, my wife was incredibly happy. And now she's like, well, what do I do now? Like I've got it. Like what do I keep going to see this band for now? And I feel like I will feel the same way whenever I get an Albuquerque, a 40-minute jam, and a 4-song second set. So we're still chasing things here.
You got a few on your list.
I got a couple of things I'm still waiting for, but
Same.
we're still chasing that. The chase continues, but this was a very, very special moment.
That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course. Set 2, I think this was my favorite set of the weekend. I think the second set of 4th of July was probably like the best, like compact. This is a set of Fish, like zero frills. This set though got to this like weird space. It got to that kind of like disorienting. What song is this again? What is going on here? What is the band trying to do? Yeah. Very spacey weirdness, especially in Fuego, Cross-eyed, Everything's Right. Like that whole segment, Fuego, my friend, Fuego, Cross-eyed, Everything's Right. That's why I go see Fish. The conversation we've been having throughout this episode about like no 20, 25 minute long jams. This felt like that alternate approach of, well, what if we played a 25-minute long jam style, but across 60 minutes and 4 songs? And it's kind of a yin and yang. We've talked about like, what is our preference? I love the deep, deep jams off of one song, but I think the counter to that is this, which is like 4 songs that flow really well together. They all felt thematic. It was all surprising. It all worked really well. And each of them, the second they left the song, were just like, Paige, when can you go back to those synthesizers? When can those lights do the spinny thing again? And when can we just get into like some weird zones? So I was super into it. I'm a fan of more. Slave, I don't understand why they play Harry Hood as well as they play Harry Hood, and they don't really seem to do the same thing for Slave. It seems like Slave has kind of become this like afterthought of, well, we need a set closer, we'll throw it in 9 minutes. It's almost like where Bowie is right now. And like Slave and Hood are kind of like the same structural song when it comes down to it. It's just like 3-chord peak, like just give us the hose over and over and over again. And we don't really get there. So I'm a little confused by that. But on the whole, that 60-minute midsection was everything I look for in this band. I love it. I was so into that stuff.
Yeah, I was excited when I heard it. Go ahead, RJ.
Well, I just have a theory. I think that Slave has been more like taken over by What's the Use in terms of its like where emotional the space impact? That it like the space that it used to fill, because it to me feels like that's just it used to just be this quiet like contemplative place that would last for 3 or 4 minutes, and that was kind of like the point of Slave, and then of course the peak. But like it's weird. Like it's weird to look at the Live Fish app or archive or whatever and see it like an 8-minute Slave, and you're like, can you even do that in 8 minutes? Like, is it even possible? Like you have to try.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like the emotional payoff kind of requires the extended contemplation.
Yeah.
Like, that's why 95
like
Slaves
podcast
are so good.
That's why if this podcast was like 15 minutes, it would be like, how can they even do that? They can't.
That's why you just took quick hits out
there.
of this. Yeah. You just stopped with quick hits. We gave that to Nugs.
We gave it to Nugs.
We don't want to do it quick.
God, such a great name. Good luck. All right. Well, let's talk more about this second set. This mashup is, or that's the way it sounds like to me. Is like I don't know. It's cool. Like you were saying, Brian, not knowing where things are and all that. But like this idea of like the going in and out of songs is just so great. But Megan, I think I interrupted you. I can talk more about that segment, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I was just thinking a lot about Fuego when it started, because for the last 2 years, it's not gone more than 8 shows without being played. And historically, it has a 26% chance of being jammed. But lately, it's more like 50 to 60%. Like every other version of Fuego goes monster. And, it was great. Mike was doing that stuff he was doing in Oblivion and in the Tweezer, and everyone else jumped on and was playing this like repetitive matching moment with him. It just sounded awesome. I think that it was a bit of a ripcord into My Friend, which is why I don't love this set as much as the night 2 set 2. But the way that first of all, if you're going to ripcord, I do think My Friend is actually like that's maybe one of the best things you can ripcord,
especially
into.
with what it's proven it can do.
Totally. Like it's also like Fuego, like in a great spot right now, and just such an old song. It opened my first show. There's something to me that hits about this song so hard, and playing a Fuego riff inside My Friend is so cool. Like both of those songs have that kind of edgy darkness, like anger to them that is really sick. And I love that they got into that weird spot. It's like really a lot of weird shit for Brian Weird Shit Brinkman, which I was happy for you about. But just, the way that Trey also like slowly and patiently dragged them out of the weird stuff and just turned it into this really soulful soloing. It was, and Paige was laying down these icy synths. I love that jam. I thought it was awesome. And Cross-Eyed, we have a moment when Trey says Wu-Tang Forever because RZA actually sound checked with them and he was there. And as a 90s hip hop girl, worlds colliding in just an awesome way. I heard that they're both playing in Columbus this week. We could get a sit-in. I don't know, but that would be so sick and terrible at the same time, I'm sure. But
hip hop and jam bands go great together. I think every example of it has been awesome.
I know my brother who is not into this. Well, you don't know, but my brother is not into jam band music at all. And every time he's really into hip hop though. And every time he comes across like a moment, he always sends it to me on like a TikTok or something. He sent me, the Jay-Z time that he played with Fish in Brooklyn. And I'm like, we don't talk about this. Like, this is not something we're interested in, Mike. Please don't send me this anymore. But yeah, I thought the Cross-Eyed jam is awesome. It gets so soundscapey and it's cool because it's a little different than the other ones and that it kind of melts down into this kind of feels like a river of a jam. It's really forward moving and really effortless and pretty. I loved that Cross-Eyed jam. I thought that was killer.
Yeah, that was a huge highlight for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brian, go ahead. Do you have more on the second set?
No, I mean, I was just going to add that like Fuego, for a while, it's just an interesting, as the band's history goes on, what happens. Like for a long time, Fuego was kind of lost and didn't really seem to connect,
Mm-hmm.
and it seemed kind of just a little clunky, and they didn't really know where to place it. But I seem to recall definitely since spring 23, they played a version at Berkeley that was one of the best jams of that year. And then they played the version at MSG that was one of the best jams of the year. Last year, we've had a bunch of great versions. But even I think into parts of 2022, like I seem to recall the Earth Day show had a great version. I think Merriweather Post had a really solid version. Like, it's just wild what these songs can do and how they can evolve. And that when you think back on this week, and the big highlights would be relative rarities in Sneak and Sally, What's Going Through Your Mind, Tweezer, Fuego, and Cross-Eyed, and Everything's Right. It's just an interesting mix of like new and rare fish that is inspiring the band at this point in time.
Yeah, that a lot that kind of reminded me of like maybe not quite as interesting, but like the Catapult machine thing from a few years ago,
very similar vibes. Great call.
Yeah. It's just cool when they get into this space where it's totally unpredictable and we have no idea what's going on.
I actually thought it
because I'm so chasing Catapult. So
I actually thought at times that we were getting a Catapult, just the way the music was going throughout that set. It reminded me of parts of 11/1 2018 where like Catapult is just lingering around the corner there. And it made me realize we need a Catapult Mount Rushmore. So I added it to the larger list for 2026.
That's fun. And there's not as many versions to listen to. It's not like a daunting.
No, and it's short. So you'll be able to do it.
Exactly. They're like 3 minutes. Yeah. I want to hear that song so bad. Yeah.
Brian, you know that I love Buffalo Bill so much. They did the Buffalo Bill Harry Hood combo encore, which I think is a great combo.
Buffalo Harry.
That's so
as
great.
Trey says.
Great little nod to playing in Dion's house. I did find it funny. I think you'll appreciate this. I wish you had been here for this moment more than anything else. They played Rocky Top on night one in Folsom
Yeah.
Field. Like that
Yeah.
is like what a pro move to be like, we're gonna play Tennessee's fight song here in
Here.
Dion's house.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff.
Eventually they went back, or at least played Buffalo Bill. But what was the vibes like coming out of here? What do you think about and any like recap on your overall run here?
I think ultimately this will be kind of what it was slightly designed to be, based on the tour routing, as a kind of isolated event. You know, they tend to make Colorado these sort of destination holiday events, which really works out when like the music is as high quality as you can imagine and feels slightly, I don't want to say underwhelming, but just feels like a really good time when they play a run like this. I don't think that the music will be the defining factor of this run for weeks or months or years to come. I think it will be that Folsom Field was a beautiful, stress-free, high vibes, awesome place to see the band that I would 100% go back to. I think my heart hopes that they return to Dick's next year, just because I love the legacy of that venue, and I definitely missed it at times. And I think that them playing out here over Labor Day and ending the summer here is just a good tradition they should continue carrying on. But if they ultimately decide to switch to Folsom Field for the foreseeable future, I will not be complaining, because I thought this venue ruled. And I'm pretty happy to go back to 3 nights. I know that's shocking to some people, but like, I'm glad I don't have to organize a fish show tonight and that whole
4 nights
that
is a
whole thing.
lot. It's tiring
4
to
nights
do
is a
4
lot.
nights in a row. It's a lot.
I thought this was just like a really fun midsummer stop off. I feel like we are going to hear the best of what this band can offer when they get on that tour cycle of like Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday. I think that just like rhythm,
Like
that
Forest
routine.
Hills back.
Yeah, and they're coming back to like, well, yeah, because they're coming back to the Northeast. They're going to play some pretty familiar venues. Obviously, Forest Hills is a new spot, but playing in New York City is going to really amp them up. Columbus, they seem to like playing Charleston. Philadelphia, always love playing there. And then they're ending the tour with 3 nights at SPAC, which is like as home turf as it gets. Like, I think that this run will ultimately be Colorado was fun, midsummer fish. Now we're back to like fish.
I feel like this is so mean, but there's this evil part of me that's really happy that my fish isn't going to be like upstaged by Dick's this year, like it was last year, and like it is so many years. I feel like I left Mondegreen like it was awesome. I had the best time. Like, you know, last night was like a little underwhelming. Fuego saved the day, but like whatever, it was amazing. And then they went to Dick's, and I was like, great, thanks a lot. You know, so this year that won't happen to me. So selfishly, I'm a little happy about that.
Wow. Well, all right.
It's cruel.
She wins the drafts and she wins the shows. You know what else?
Exactly.
Not
Megan
yet.
wants
I
it
haven't
all.
yet.
Megan wants it all. She wants all the
true.
best shows and all the wins. Megan's going for
To
the
be
wins.
fair, I haven't hit those wins.
1598.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't hit those wins as much lately. I mean, I've had some awesome stuff, but I haven't hit Mexico or Dick's 24 lately. So I didn't hit the Pittsburgh this year. You know, I haven't hit them. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well,
this is your year.
Yeah.
As
All right.
Forbin 777 says, the gift that keeps giving, which I think refers to Mondegreen Night 4. So, or day 4 rather. Okay, guys.
There was no night about that. You saw
night.
Trey sweating.
God.
Was that when he was wearing like a big jacket on top of
He was
a long
wearing a
sleeve shirt?
His glasses kept falling down to his nose.
Slipping
He
down
kept
his
pushing.
nose.
Like he really looked miserable. I felt
We were
so
like,
bad for him.
take off your jacket. Just take it off. Wear a t-shirt in Folsom.
It's like the Trevor thing, but it's just taking off your jacket.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we'll be back next week. We're going to recap some shows. I have no idea what shows are this week, but apparently there are some.
Columbus and Charleston.
Columbus and Charleston. Okay. And so there's one night in Columbus at the Schottenstein Center. Schottenstein Center is a place that, you know, not that anyone cares, but that is near and dear to my heart because it's where the Ohio State Buckeyes play basketball.
So we're going back indoors.
Nice.
What's that?
We're going back indoors.
Yeah.
This is not
and Charleston too, right?
This
This
is
is
not the
a
amphitheater that they used to play
this
at in
is an
Columbus.
arena. It opened while I was in
Ah,
college there in 1998. We upgraded from St. John Arena to the Schottenstein Center. It's a like big arena, big basketball arena. And then 3 indoor shows at Charleston before we start baking at the Man. I think it's going to be
yeah,
hot and probably rain. It'll probably we'll get everything at the
great.
Man.
Perfect.
But
Perfect.
and then maybe we'll do a mailbag thing in between now and then. But I guess that's it. That's all I got. You guys got anything else?
No, we said it all. Good times.
Yeah.
Really good times. Cannot wait for more fish from the couch.
Vibes tour, guys. See you. Keep the vibes high. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye, everyone.